So we're calling to order the meeting of the North Fair Oaks Council for today, August, what day is it?
22nd.
22nd, I'm looking at the wrong day here. August 22nd, 2013. And we have a quorum here for the council, but we'll go ahead and take roll. And if you would just say your name.
Manuel Ramirez, present.
Beatriz Cerrillo, present.
Laura Kaplan.
Dale Miller, present.
Esperanza Vázquez, present.
Okay, thank you. So I don't know if everyone has a copy of the agenda, but anyone, we have some time now for some public comments that anyone may speak for up to 3 minutes on any topic that is not on our agenda for this evening. So if you have something that you would like to speak about, we have a speaker slip. We just want to make it formal and ask you to fill that out. Thanks. If we just have one person, we can.
Yeah.
Well, are you the? Is there anyone other than? Okay, why don't we just go ahead and have you talk since you already did come up, and I'd like anyone who speaks tonight. We are being recorded and televised so that other people in the community can, at a later date, access the contents of this meeting. So what we are going to ask is that anyone who speaks utilize the microphone, because otherwise you cannot be heard. So we have public comment from Debbie Torres, and I see a press release here. Perhaps you're going to be talking about that, so go ahead.
Testing. Okay. My name is Debbie Torres, and I own the Hanky Panky Gentlemen's Club in Redwood City. And my husband and I started it 20 years ago, over 20 years ago. My husband passed away 4 years ago, and I'm running it myself now. And I'm not going to take up too much time because I know we have a really full agenda, but I did provide a press release back there of a situation that the Hanky Panky has been going through. The alcoholic beverage control came to the Hanky Panky, and based on one anonymous complaint and with no collaborating evidence from the local law enforcement agency, launched a very large undercover investigation, and they found no drugs, no prostitution, no minors, and no disorderly house. And they alleged that the Hanky Panky is violating Rule 143 of the Alcoholic Beverage Control, which basically is a rule that was written in 1970 to prohibit live sex acts on stage, and applied it to my club. So after a long legal battle, I decided to settle, and the Hanky Panky will serve a 20-day suspension with no alcohol starting April 29th, or August 29th. So I'm here to answer any questions that anybody may have about my club. I run a good, clean, honest business. I run a fair. I try to respect everybody. I try to do a good job for the community. I don't believe my business is a blight or a burden on our community. I don't expect everybody to agree with my type of business, but I would hope that they would agree that run in a lawful way, I have the right to exist. Thank you.
Thank you.
So after the 20-day suspension, you say, they will allow you to operate at a regular
Yes.
business operation?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to say that, I personally don't have anything against your business. I think you're entitled to run a business like that in North Fair Oaks. So I certainly wish you good luck on reinstating your license to the fullest extent.
Thank you very much. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. we've had some new visitors. Does anyone else in the public have a comment that they wish to make about something that is not on tonight's agenda? Okay. All right, well, in that case, I'm going to move to some old business, which is the approval of minutes from previous meetings. And we have first minutes for the council meeting that took place June 27th of this year. And I understand the council members have received these minutes. Does anyone have a motion?
I'm going to motion that we approve the minutes, although I believe you wanted to make an amendment.
Well, not to
one.
that one.
You'll do that one?
Are you going to try to do all at once?
I was going to.
Okay,
but,
go right ahead.
Which one do you,
Well, I had a comment about our study session on the 15th, which was last week.
okay. Do you want to make, well, let me make the recommendation then to approve
Okay.
the first two. So I am going to motion that we approve the minutes for June 27th, 2013, and July 11th, 2013.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, do we have any discussion on this? Any comments that need to be added?
I don't have any, and I read the
Anyone
minutes, and I'm okay with them.
Okay.
Yep.
So all in favor of approving the minutes for those two meetings?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Unanimous?
that passes.
Yep.
I did have one comment on the study session minutes, and that was just a correction where, sorry. It was mentioned on page 2 that I had said the Bay Area Catering and Events does not have plans to move to Redwood City. Actually, what I had said was that I understood they did not have plans to currently move their catering operations to Redwood City. So just a correction to, that was kind of significant there in terms of the meaning. But is there any motion about that?
I will motion that we approve those minutes also with the correction that you have stated. So the minutes for August 15th, 2013. That's the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. So we have the approval for all 3 sets of minutes from previous meetings. And now I'd like to ask Irving Torres from the supervisor's office if you would like to make the supervisor's report.
Good evening, Council. Unfortunately, Supervisor Slocum could not be here tonight, so I'll be reporting on his behalf. A couple announcements that the Supervisor wanted to make was we're actually going to have, in partner with the North Fair Oaks Community Council, a booth at the North Fair Oaks Community Festival this Sunday. So we're going to have materials. Feel free to pass by our booth. We're going to be in between 5th Avenue and 4th Avenue on Millfield Road, and the festival is this Sunday. Next on the announcements is Supervisor Slocum has been on the road for office hours. In July, he actually had a couple of office hours at the Sienna Youth Center. So we actually had people come in, introduce themselves to the supervisor and talk about the needs and issues that they felt that they wanted to hear from the supervisor and to be heard. In the month of August, we actually went to East Palo Alto to host office hours there. We partnered up with Mayor Ruben Abrica, so he actually attended those office hours as well. And just wanted to make an announcement that Supervisor Slocum is actually going to be going to Menlo Park to have his office hours there. And he's going to be accompanied by Mayor Peter Ataki, the mayor of Menlo Park. So that's going to be on September 4th. And then if you have any other questions, please feel free to send me an email or give us a call at our office. Also want to make an announcement about the next District Lines meeting. As you know, Supervisor Slocum is the Vice Chair of the District Lines Committee. which is a committee to hear about public comments, studying the current and potential boundaries, and recommending possible adjustments to the map. So those meetings are open to the public, and the next one's going to be on September 10th. It's going to be at the Daly City War Memorial Community Center. And if you have any questions, you want to know more about the district lines or about the committee or that whole process, please feel free to visit the website at smcdistrictcommittee.org, or you can give us a call at our office, and we'd be more happy to answer any questions that you may have. The next meetings, actually, the next announcement the supervisor wanted to make is, as you know, we had a process of applicants for the first ever San Mateo County Poet Laureate. The deadlines it's already been closed for applications. I'm happy to announce that we had a total of 15 applicants who have applied to become San Mateo County's first ever Poet Laureate. So a huge credit goes to Marcy Dragan from Supervisor Slocum's office and for the committee for doing a tremendous job outreaching to community and letting them know about that whole application process. The next steps is the committee is actually going to meet next week to select finalists, and then afterwards on October 8th, they're going to actually select the person who's going to be San Mateo County's next Poet Laureate. For any questions, you can call our office. We'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Two more items the supervisor wanted to let the council know is he's actually recently part of a committee member for the SBWMA, which stands for the South Bay Waste Management Authority. Basically, it's the joint powers of 12 public agencies in San Mateo County, which focuses on like recycling, organics, garbage collected in services in the area. And supervisor actually wanted to let you know that he's actually saw that there's a proposed rate increases in North Fair Oaks. And so supervisor wants to let you know that he's actually talked to Lillian Clark and Joe Lamaria to kind of do the research as to why there's an increase of fees in North Fair Oaks, because it's actually bumped up to 14. And so I wanted to actually let you know that the SBWMA is actually going to be voting on the fees on September 26th at 2 p.m. So that's actually the day of the council meeting, and actually a day, earlier than the council meeting. So the supervisor has strongly recommend to see if the council would actually have a special meeting to kind of discuss that and to see if you have any recommendations, if you're in favor of the fees or not. So that way the supervisor can actually get those recommendations before the vote on September 26th. Another announcement that the supervisor wanted to make is that on September 11th, the Planning Commission is actually going to be having a hearing to decide on the issue of the zoning regulations in base. The staff reports are going to be released on September 4th. And as we've heard, that council took a position back in 2012, and I guess we're just assuming that the council still has the stance on their position. And if you have any questions, like I said, the staff report's going to be released on September 4th, and that means going to be on September 11th. That's all. If you have any questions, I'll be more than gladly answer them.
I do have one question,
Yeah.
and that is, do you have, by any chance, the dates for our upcoming work group meetings? I wanted to announce those tonight, and I wasn't able to gather my stuff here, so I only have one or two of them.
For
For the various work group?
For the North Fair Oaks Community Plan, I don't have that
Okay.
whole list.
Okay, so if anybody has those, I'd like to be able to share those at some point tonight, but, okay.
Yeah, and then we'll post them up on Supervisor Slocum's website, like his county website page. There's like a community calendar, so that's another way to get up-to-date information on what's going on. And a couple weeks from now, we're going to actually also have the newsletter too, so that's another way to get some information about what's going on in the district, and also about the North Fair Oaks Community Plan as well.
As far as the September 4th, the planning, or rather the staff recommendation on the zoning change, just to clarify, that's not actually about base. That's just about the property where base is currently located, so I wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, that's correct. My apologies for that. So yeah, it's actually the property
So it won't
on base,
affect
not-
that business?
Yeah.
and their lease. Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
A question, so,
Mhm.
for the special meeting that maybe we should be having about the rate increases,
Yes.
so that's something that maybe we should discuss to come up with a date
Mm-hmm.
to have that meeting,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think we should probably
Discuss that
discuss that
at the end.
at the end.
Yeah, I was going to try
Okay.
to discuss that before we adjourn. Have that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, and actually, one more thing is, now that you mention it, September 10th is going to be the recommendations for the new council members. So they're going to be presented to the Board of Supervisors. As you know, 4 people have actually applied to become, to be on the North Fair Oaks Community Council member, including one person who wants to be a youth member. And so they actually had special meetings with the council, and they've actually had interviews with Supervisor Horsley and Supervisor Slocum. So now, they both actually recommended them for the council members to be appointed, and so they're actually going to be voted on by the Board of Supervisors at the September 10th Board of Supervisors meeting. So, and that's it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Any other
thank you.
questions? No. Okay. So now we have an opportunity for reports from council members. Are there any?
I just want to report that I've been sick for about more than a month, so I haven't been able to be out there doing anything, so no reports from me. So, sorry.
All right.
If that's a
Did you want to report on the parks? We had a parks working group meeting a couple weeks ago. It was well attended. There were a lot of high-ranking officials, but a number of people from Redwood City and other organizations that have that work with parks and recreation, and I think we made a lot of progress for the first meeting.
Yes, it was a good meeting. So, and the other work groups of parking, communications, and zoning. So in addition to the parks meeting, we have the 4 work groups currently. And if anyone is interested, probably in attending those meetings, since I don't have the dates for the upcoming meetings with me right now, but if anyone is interested in attending those meetings in the future, please contact the supervisor's office. I do have a comment, and that is that we initially had another item scheduled to be discussed tonight on tonight's agenda that had to do with a notice of a request to get an off-street parking exception for 779 15th Avenue. That item was discussed at our study session last week. What happened is that the owner, the applicant, sent a letter to the Planning Commission, or the Planning Department, and withdrew that application. So they have said at this point they will be revising their plan and will, in fact, go ahead and provide a second covered space as required, so that if that happens, if their new plan as submitted meets the requirements, then there will be no off-street parking exception needed. So if that happens, we won't see this item again. And I know that there were some neighbors who came tonight wanting to weigh in on that if that were to be discussed, and that's the reason it's not on the agenda, because the application was withdrawn. So just wanted to share that news. Any other reports from council members? Okay, then I would like.
Actually, if you don't mind,
Okay.
before I got sick, I had a chance to meet with the former President Moore, former president of Cañada College, and actually he's in the audience, and we met to discuss that he's now running for the community college board, And I think I would like to invite him maybe to come up and say a few words about that, because I think Mr. Moore would actually be a very outstanding member if he ever has a chance to win there.
Oh, the microphone, oh, you can go to that one too, that's right, sorry. Both, two sides. Good.
Well, thank you, members of the board, for the opportunity to say a few words. During my 6 years at Kenyatta College, I realized how important North Fair Oaks is to the welfare and the well-being of a great many young people being served at the college. We are a college that intends to serve well every segment of the county we serve. So I think it's very important that college people like myself, people who are presently at the college, and people like myself who want to work with the college district, in my case as a member of the Board of Trustees, be present to North Fair Oaks. Come to the meetings, listen to what the issues are, see what the point of view is of the people as regards how the colleges can help them, especially their young people, get the education they deserve and be empowered to be all that they can be. I think that involves a lot of dialogue. I think there's got to be continual discourse about what are the issues, how can the colleges serve you better, is there a need for classrooms here in the community? I think there are. As a matter of fact, that'd certainly be one of the things that I'd be very concerned about. What kinds of courses are most important for whatever segment of the population, and whatever their needs are for meaningful employment, for having more access to college courses, getting ready to transfer, et cetera. There's a wide range of needs. But exactly how all that is set up, I think, depends to a large extent on how the leadership in the community and in the college district are working together. So I do appreciate very much the opportunity to say a few words. It isn't so much about my being elected as much as it is for the leadership of the college district to be working with you as closely as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Moore, and I very much appreciate the chance for you to come and talk to me like the way we spoke.
That was a
one-on-one.
good beginning, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
So I really appreciate it, and I think you have the support of all the members that you work with, Kenyatta College and all the colleges around. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Mr. Ramirez. Thank you very much.
I also would like to add that I'm a staunch advocate of education, lifelong learning. I myself work and have worked at schools, elementary schools all my life, and it is upon us, our responsibility, to make lifelong learners of and access possible for anyone who wants that. I listen to the news right now and the whole issues surrounding San Francisco City College, and it's so sad, it's difficult. They have lots of issues that they're dealing with, but community colleges are really, really important. They serve such a wide variety of our population, and I'm very pleased to have you come talk to us, and also to put that for us to think about how we can better make these liaisons and bridges to get more of our community up to that college. Thank you.
Well, if I may just say a few more words, I don't want to take much of your time. Wherever I go, I receive questions about what my reaction is to the City College dilemma. And my answer generally goes something like this. Well, our colleges have worked very, very hard to get ready for accreditation. They're going through accreditation beginning in October. I have every confidence they will do very, very well. The community colleges in every community, and very especially in the city, are critical to the well-being of the people. There are 85,000 students there, and most of them underrepresented people.
Right.
It is their dream, it is their hope, it's their only, not the only, but a terribly important opportunity for fulfillment. So I cannot even conceive of City College being closed. I really can't. And I think there are going to be enough leaders come to bear, in my opinion, to get this turned around in due time. Also, I just wanted to say that one of the things that happened when all the reductions occurred, you know, the 2 or 3 years ago, the colleges were cutting 20 or 30%. Well, in many college districts, the first components of the programs to go were the community courses. That is, courses taught in the community, entrepreneurship, ESL, language development, et cetera. This college district is determined to keep community service in the community. And I'm hoping I'll have the opportunity to keep those courses forthcoming. It was a really good point you made. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we need to move on with our agenda, and I'd like to ask Lieutenant Reed to share with us your sheriff's report.
Good afternoon, Council. Just a few things to go over from the Sheriff's Office. Like Mr. Torres had spoke about a little earlier, this Sunday is the North Fair Oaks Festival. Starts at 11 a.m., the parade starts, and it goes till 6 p.m. And Middlefield Road will be closed from 5th Avenue all the way down to 1st, as will the side streets, 1st through 5th, there for those from 9 o'clock on Saturday night till roughly 10 or 11 o'clock Sunday night. The side streets will open first, then Middlefield Road hopefully will have open by 10 o'clock, but it might be as late as midnight. So that's all part of the festival. Then we'll talk about some statistics for the area. The Gang Task Force, I've spoken about the Gang Task Force before. It's out every week. It's out during the summer. And this week, the Gang Task Force agents made 6 arrests in the city of Redwood City. North Fair Oaks community is listed as Redwood City. 2 of them were from actually in the North Fair Oaks area. The other ones are in the surrounding area. As you know, the gang members that are plaguing this community are plaguing Redwood City. There's not a line drawn on the ground, and they don't cross it. They're crossing back and forth. So the good work by the Gang Task Force continues. 6 arrests by them just in Redwood City in the last week. 3 of those were validated gang members. 3 of those arrests were validated gang members. So that work continues on. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm fighting a little bit of a cold, so I apologize. In the second quarter of this year, just some of the stats where the Sheriff's Office wrote 1,000 parking citations between April and June. In the this is North Fair Oaks area only. Made 58 felony arrests, 80 misdemeanor arrests, 430 assisted the Highway Patrol in 13 DUI arrests, and towed 25 cars, and plus 7 more abandoned cars. Plus, towed 7 abandons and 25 cars for other reasons. And all total, well, that's the best of the stats there. It's just the other ones, we could break it down by number to number, but that's kind of where we're at right now. And then we'll have another quarterly report will be coming out end of September, and hopefully that I'll bring to the board. I also talked about bringing some of the community policing activities to the board. I wanted to get past the the North Fair Oaks Festival. I want to get past that, and then I'll start bringing my guys in, but everybody's kind of focused on that right now. So I asked them to kind of keep their efforts focused on that, and then we'll start with the council in September and October, November. I'll have somebody here, and I'll work with Mr. Torres to get on the agenda. And, one other thing, I almost forgot. Somewhere in the 2700 block of Devonshire, there was an arrest made for sales of narcotics, child endangerment, and narcotic sales in possession of a handgun. And that is thanks to everyone in the neighborhood providing us, the information that we needed that we could set up an undercover operation in there. They got some surveillance on it and actually made a couple buys and then effected the arrest. So thank you to everyone. Ms. Davis certainly and all of your surrounding crew did a good job, and we were able to effect that arrest and get that guy that was selling that dope out of that house gone on some pretty good charges. Questions? Very good.
Good
Thank
one.
you very much.
Thank you. So now we have a California Highway Patrol report. Captain Mike Maskerich.
Hi, good evening, members of the council, members of the North Fair Oaks community. As always, it's a pleasure to be here. Following up from the meeting that had taken place on June 27th, one of the constituents had brought up a question as to the California Highway Patrol's efforts to conduct driver's license stops and checks in the area. And I did a little follow-up on that. We don't do just individual driver's license checks on their own. We combine those with DUI checkpoint activities. And following that, on July 12th, we had a DUI checkpoint that was in the area here. We effected approximately 4 arrests. We had a number of individuals who did not have valid driver's licenses. While we did cite them, we afforded them the opportunity to park their vehicles and make arrangements to have a licensed driver come and get those vehicles to try to save them the cost of having the vehicles impounded. And it's a way to work with the violators, so to speak, and to try to give them the right direction so that they can legally obtain a driver's license and move forward with getting the requisite license and insurance so that they could, drive and follow all the rules of the road. Recent activities, as Lieutenant Reed pointed out, the California Highway Patrol, as well as a partner on the gang task force activities, and we've been working very hard to try to keep this community safe and to keep the gang activity down. In fact, the night of the checkpoint on July 12th, I happened to be out there at the checkpoint, and there was a very brief pursuit that had taken place unrelated to the DUI efforts. The individual was stopped in North Fair Oaks area. The members of the gang task force were out in force, and it was a testament to the residents of the community who all came out and helped direct the individual patrol units to where the suspects had hid in a backyard. So I've worked in many areas of the state where that sort of cooperation doesn't always take place, and so it's great to be part of this community, to see those efforts, and to see people who take a stake in their community and trying to keep their community safe. For our recent activity, unfortunately, what we are seeing is an upward trend slightly in motor vehicle accidents in the North Fair Oaks community. Probably the most disturbing aspect of that trend is an increase in driving under the influence. So year to date, we have 14 individuals who were involved in traffic collisions who were found to be under the influence of alcohol or drugs. When we compare those numbers to where we were at this time last year, we were down to 5. So from 5 to 14 is a significant increase, and it certainly prompted me to look at the patrol deployment and to make sure that we're putting our resources in the right place. Ideally, we want to apprehend those individuals before they get involved into an accident. So it's just through aggressive traffic enforcement, as well as the assistance of the community. And you all, if you happen to see someone who you believe to be under the influence, that is totally appropriate to dial 911. That'll probably be dispatched if it goes, and it's depending on how the switching works in the system, whether it goes directly to CHP dispatch or if you get County Communication Center. That information will be broadcast to the field. It may go to the sheriff's office first. It may come to us, but it really doesn't matter what uniform, what patrol car, what agency the person is from. We all work collaboratively for us to be able to stop and apprehend those individuals. So we all serve the common good in that respect. And again, to just reiterate what Lieutenant Reed said, we'll also be out here at the festival this weekend. The CHP will have a booth. One of the areas that we're looking to recruit is in our senior volunteer program. So for those individuals 55 and older, and I know 55 doesn't seem to be too old because I'm kind of closing in on that here pretty quick myself, we are looking for individuals who are interested in volunteering to assist the California Highway Patrol in a myriad of different capacities. So some individuals have an interest in going out in the field and helping us. It's not, you're not making car stops, you're not carrying a gun, but it is moving our radar trailer around. And Ms. Davis, I see you out there. I know you're a big supporter of us and our radar trailer because we do move it frequently throughout the county, as well as assisting in at various administrative capacities in our office. And we couldn't do the jobs that we do in the field if it wasn't for our volunteers. And we are looking to expand our program to make it more robust. And I certainly encourage any individual who has an interest in coming on board. And again, the Highway Patrol has a good program. I know the Sheriff's Office has a program. It's just taking advantage of people with some very unique skill sets and backgrounds that we can bring into the organization and really work collaboratively with them. And that is all I have. Any questions?
What type of skills do you need for the volunteers?
An interest level, just an interest and a willingness to be part of something that you can give your time, and we are so appreciative of that. So there's no particular skill level that I would say is better than another. Certainly language skills are very important. Individuals who have the ability to, say, speak Spanish or some other foreign languages have been very beneficial to us. individuals with backgrounds in business, finances. I mean, you'd be amazed at the type of things that we have to do that we not necessarily have the resources immediately available, and one of our volunteers can bring to bear. So we encourage anyone with an interest, and again, your interest is the number one criteria that we're looking for, and we can work through everything else. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So now we move into an area where we are going to take some action as a council. We have been talking for quite some time about a revision of the bylaws for the North Fair Oaks Council. So the proposed revision has been reviewed by the council members and has been posted. And we've had lots of discussion and even some tweaks to that. So tonight, I would like to, first of all, see if there's any further discussion, and if not, entertain a motion to approve the changed bylaws that we've been reviewing and discussing for several months. Discussion.
Maybe county council could remind us of the latest changes that were made? No? Okay.
Well, we had changes such as moving from,
Like the last tweak that we
Robert's-
waited for.
oh, okay, I was going to say, went from Robert's Rules of Order to that new guy. So, Rosenberg. And so, any questions? Yes. Oh, Irving's going to offer a review here.
Yeah, so I just wanted to just make one comment on behalf of our office. So District 4 was able to review the bylaws, and so we proposed that the bylaws were sufficient and that the changes that were made were solid. So that's the only comment that we wanted to make.
Right, most of this was just updates to reflect things that we are currently doing. For example, one change was that we used to meet on the third Thursday of every month, and we had a council study session on the fourth Thursday of every month for discussion and planning purposes. When Supervisor Slocum came on, he wants to be able to attend our meetings as much as possible, but he had a conflict on the third Thursday with an ABAG meeting that he typically attends. So he had asked if we would consider changing. So that was one of the bylaws changes, was moving our regular meeting to the fourth Thursday of each month, which if this passes, that will be the practice going forward. So it was mostly that kind of change. Is there any other discussion, any other questions?
No, I think the final draft, I think we've had time to go over it. Irving sent it a couple of weeks ago or so, so I already went over that, and I think I'm okay with it, so.
Yeah. So I remembered that the last tweak had to do with the timing of the election for officers to be the second regular meeting of each calendar year.
That was
Correct.
one of the changes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll motion that we accept the bylaws as written,
The new bylaws.
new bylaws.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that motion passes, I was going to say anonymously, unanimously. We will now be adhering to the new North Fair Oaks Council bylaws. Okay. Actually, one more change, I just was remembering, it was the name. So, yeah, the logo and the name went from North Fair Oaks Council to North Fair Oaks Community Council.
Correct.
So that
That's
was,
still in there,
so, yes, we've been considering these changes for so long, I guess it seemed like we were already there, but now it's official. So, again, we will have our meeting next fourth Thursday. from now on the fourth Thursday. And next item then, which is to look at a recommendation, look at the council, whether we wanted to recommend. I see, okay, the wording is a little awkward here. So there is an application for a use permit for 3501 Edison Way, and Angela Chavez from Planning and Building is going to explain that to us.
I don't know if you can. I'll just try and talk loud. Good evening.
Maybe you want to move it a little closer?
Yeah,
Is it possible? Oh, there we go.
kind of short. So before us tonight, we have a use permit application for a property at 3501 Edison Way. The subject property is zoned M1, which is light industrial, Edison, which has a different and North Fair Oaks, which has a different breakdown than the overall light industrial zoning that we have elsewhere in the county. With that, while this use of a commercial laundry would normally be allowed because it is in this community, we recognize that there may be impacts, and so therefore is allowed, but only with the issuance of a use permit. That being said, this particular property is currently developed, and it has existing warehouse and office space for which this will be converting one of those existing units, and the applicant is actually already located in another. It does not result in any exterior changes to the building, but does require tenant improvements. This includes the installation of 4 commercial washing machines, 5 commercial dryers, water heater, cold and hot water lines, and a gas line to serve the dryers. The proposed business hours, I know there was some question about that, and I did get clarification. So the staff at this facility currently in the evening loads the vehicle for the next day. At 6:30, there is a employee who comes and collects the vehicle and then leaves to do their drop-offs. So the actual facility itself isn't open until the 7 a.m., where we had that discrepancy in the description that came from the applicant. There are currently 9 employees, and that is also the proposal. They do work a staggered schedule, so not all 9 employees are there at the same time. And there is a description in the attachments that describes that staggering. Some other questions. At this point, there is only 1 van and 1 driver who makes 2 round trips a day. As I mentioned, the driver arrives just to collect that van at 6:30. This is only a wash and fold location, so there's no dry cleaning that's taking place.
Wash and dry and
Just wash and dry and fold, but no dry cleaning.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt for just a second? Because I wanted to clarify for the other people here that we did talk about this at our study session last week, and so there were several questions that the council had, and these are the questions that you're answering for us now.
Correct.
But one of those was, you said there are currently 9 employees, and they're proposing 9 employees, but
So no
isn't this
change.
an expansion? How could they have no change if they're adding all
So currently,
this equipment? I'm just...
Currently, the applicant operates 2 coin-operated laundries. At this point, they are doing the laundry at those locations and then bringing the product or the laundry to finish, so fold, at this location. So they are sort of in transit, whereas this point, they will just be fixed at the location. And then the storage space that's shown on the plan serves to supply the 2 coin-operated existing laundries that they have elsewhere. So, does that answer your question? I'm sorry. As a further point of clarification, I know we were concerned about noise that could be generated. I did get specification sheets I got the models of washers and dryers that were to be utilized. I did look those up. Unfortunately, most of the manufacturers don't provide noise decibels for this type of machine, so I can't really clarify that, but I would assume it would be very similar to a laundromat. And then one other point of clarification that's kind of unique about the location of this particular building is that while there are many properties that along Edison that are directly across from or along the technology park, that directly face residential. This one does have a little bit of buffer because directly across the street is the community park at Edison and Fair Oaks. So there is a little bit of noise buffer as the machines are located at the rear of the building. We then have the park and then residential uses across. So that's what I have at this point. I don't know if you have any additional questions for me, but I'm happy to answer those.
Yes, so our concerns, our questions actually had to do with number of vehicles, traffic, parking, number of employees, noise, all of the things that we've learned are important to consider when you're granting a use permit in something that's adjacent to residential. The one question that I don't know I'm not sure how we asked this, but I know we discussed what would be the use permit, what would be the guidelines. So, for example, if something were to change, what would be the review period that you're recommending, and how could any changes that might adversely affect the community be, I guess, planned for?
So we have a number of options with the use permit approval. These types of approvals are renewable, so that's one thing. It's not forever, and normally our sort of benchmark is 5 years. And that can be a long time if there are problems. So what we normally do for something that's new and we're not quite sure what the potential impacts might be is we could include something like an administrative review where we could come back in a year and just check in with the council and see, are there complaints? Is it working like we thought? Is it actually not a problem? And we can release conditions that we've added, but we have the opportunity to do that. We also can include conditions that speak to any increase would actually require an amendment to the use permit. So, if you wanted to pick a number, if you exceed beyond a certain number of trips per day or beyond a certain number of vans, then that would require you. I mean, we can, would require an amendment, which then we would come back and revisit.
Right. I like the idea of the review period being shorter and also the trigger on the number of vans because traffic has been a real issue. Are there any members of the public here who either represent the business owner or other concerned people who would like to weigh in on this?
My name is Rob Kane, and I run the company Landmark that's at Edison Way. So if you have any further questions in terms of traffic flow, we instruct our driver to go down to Fifth Avenue and use that as a thoroughfare either out to Marsh Road or Tel Camino, or take that to Woodside Road, as opposed to driving through the community.
So just to clarify, based on what Angela said, you're not really looking to expand the business at this point. It's more moving it.
We're trying to consolidate
to a
the
new
business
location.
to one location, as opposed to right now we actually run it out of 3 different locations, one in San Francisco and 2 in Redwood City.
Does anyone have any questions?
So what's the capacity of these washing machines and dryers? What's the standard load weight?
We have 2 machines that are 35-pound capacity washers. One washer is a 50-pound capacity, and one is a 100-pound capacity. So the 100-pound is a little bit larger than you would normally see in a laundromat. Okay. But the 35 pounds and the 50-pound we have in our laundromats now. And I would suggest that any noise would not get as far as the street, because it's, would be in an enclosed room in the back. Now, there's not a door on it, but it's the way that the space is laid out. There's about an 8-foot opening, but other than that, it's an enclosed room. Then there's a folding room, and then there's offices, and then the front of the building.
So have you discussed the business with surrounding tenants in that office park?
We have discussed with our neighbors in the building, yes.
And do they have concerns about noise or problems?
Not that they have raised to us. And to keep the vibration down, the machines that we have are what's called a soft mount, so you don't actually bolt it to the foundation. If you do that, then it can rattle the floor. But there's a buffer between us, because we're at the end of the building. Then we have our storage space where there's just racks where we keep towels and laundry that's already been processed. And then, so that the first suite closest to the wall is where the machines would be. The next one over is where the storage area is. And then there's a tenant on the other side of that. So there's a buffer that way as well. And there's no one located behind our space. It's, the landlord uses it for storage, his storage.
Okay.
Yes, Janet. Could,
Please.
please.
For a long time, I've been going to his laundromat on Woodside Road, and he runs a good operation. He comes in, laundromats often have machines that are broken down. He fixes them, and he keeps the place clean.
Thank you.
Thank you. So do we, if there are no other questions or
Any more discussion?
any more
around this?
discussion among the, you were finished with your remarks, Angela, correct? Okay, just wanted, I thought you were, so whoops. Is there anything else we want to
I'll
discuss?
comment that, at the study session, we did talk about the landlord is very conscious, and they have a lot of solar panels. He's a great guy, does, so we feel like he wouldn't necessarily have a business there that wasn't, that was disturbing the community.
And actually, I have a question about that. How does Mr. Ron Newdell, what is his take on your increase in the capacity of your operation on that?
His one concern had to do with the vibrations of the machines.
Okay.
So we've actually been a tenant of Mr. Newdall's in a different building where we were not processing, this more storage. And when I was talking to him about our expansion, his only concern was relative to the vibration. And so he was suggesting we actually cut the slab, put it deep, or put a bumper in between the slab. So
Okay.
instead of doing that, we bought the soft mount machines that don't require bolting into the foundation.
Okay, yeah, that's what I wanted to hear as far as his, what's his concern about your operation? How would that affect his other tenants, which I'm sure he cares about?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so that was the one issue that we addressed by buying a soft mount machine instead of the one that gets bolted to the foundation.
Got it. All right, thanks.
So, again, my concern is probably just that your business would be so successful that it might expand to more vans, and we want to, I think, I'm hearing a lot of reassurance about the other factors, the noise and the vibration and so on. I still would want to just monitor the expansion in terms of traffic impact. Go ahead.
Oh, just as a side note, to clarify, Mr. Noodle actually did submit the application on their behalf. So if that makes you feel a little bit more comfortable as well about his opinion.
Right, okay.
So
And,
do we have a recommendation?
I would trust that, a responsible business person, if they were going to expand their business, would expand the space as well and not just try to cram more employees and more deliveries and all that into the same space to save money. I mean, if they're expanding, they should, and the landlord seems to be responsible in that aspect.
Does the council have a recommendation for planning?
I think we've got a laundry list, so to speak.
A laundry list, okay.
Like the hours
I'm sorry,
hours and a review. I don't know if we want review in 6
yeah, what were
months
the,
or
what
1
were the
year.
hours again? I'm sorry.
6:30 to
I
7?
just clarify, were you to 7, 6:30 to 7, or to?
7 to
Well,
6?
it's really 6 o'clock, our hours are 6 o'clock. Because we're processing the laundry elsewhere and they're bringing it back, they've been staying till somewhere between 6:30 and 7
At night?
at night, correct. But they don't actually get there to do any work until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon now.
Okay, so,
But, I'm sorry,
Rick-
just to clarify, but with what you'd like to do.
What we'd like to do would be, actually, the people processing the laundry would not be there until still about 10 or 11, because the driver's out picking up the laundry, and there's really no need for them to be there until he gets back, and that's generally around 11:30.
so is it possible for, if we had an administrative review, to recommend a list of the kinds of things we'd want to look at, and is it possible to do it sooner than a year?
Yeah,
Or
I
is it
think,
practical?
and I think an administrative review is really a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
There's no real standard.
It would be nice, I think, to do something in 6 months and then again at the end of the year. And I think, again, our concerns have to do with traffic, have to do with making sure that other surrounding residents and tenants are not having issues with the hours or whatever
Okay,
problems could come up.
okay.
Does anyone else have any ideas of how we would like to make a motion for recommendations?
I'm okay with, creating some conditions like the review at 6 months in a year, and then just the regular 5 years after that. Is there anything
So
else?
we're limiting it to 9 employees,
Um,
and the operating hours from 6 to 7 PM, 6 AM to 7 PM.
And the single van. And I guess it's not that we would necessarily need to limit it, but that if there were changes in those items, that we'd want to trigger a review.
Well, we could craft something something like, if there was above a certain threshold. I guess I just want to be cautious because my understanding is not all 9 people are there at the same time. And so I don't know if there's a threshold that we feel more comfortable with, like if it was an increase of more than 5 or 3 employees or something like that, that would then trigger, I'm just picking a number arbitrarily,
Right.
but that would then trigger an amendment to the use permit. I mean, you could pick a threshold.
12. So how do we go about this? Do you
Well,
wanna
I think,
put
it's like you said, it's hard to tell.
Yeah,
They could have
right.
2 in the morning, and then they go, and 2 more, and
mhm.
2 more. So they could have, 15 during the day, but
Right.
only 5 there at
Right.
one
Well, at
time.
one time.
So-
Right.
The problem
we're
here is
saying
how
9
many
at one
employees
time.
at one time.
Yeah,
Right.
I
that's-
I would say, 9 seems pretty comfortable, but like Laura had said, probably 12 would be my threshold of
Yeah, and
people being there at one time in the facility.
So how many parking spaces do they get for this business?
I think they've got 6, right?
6?
6.
Yeah.
And the vans, you have 1 van that's parked on the street, or?
No, there's
Additional?
actually another, between the front of the building and where the parking begins, there's like a loading area. And so the van parks in our loading area at night, in front of the loading door.
So I would say if it would be nice to have, say, a trigger of 12 employees, And they're not all there at the same time, because if they were, that's not enough parking. But you're saying they're not, they're staggered. So I would say,
It'd be hard to have 12 people
right,
all working
right.
at
So
the
I'd say
same time.
that if it goes up to 12, that should trigger a review. If it goes up to more vans, that should trigger something, maybe more than 2. And definitely have a review at maybe 6 and 12 months to start with, something along those lines. I don't know, do we just need to give you a formal recommendation, or you just want to?
Well, your recommendation can include conditions, and then that would be my discussion to the zoning
Okay.
hearing officer about what you would like to see.
Okay.
And that's, this is all standard for use permits, so it's,
Right.
it's at your discretion about what you feel comfortable with.
If I may make just one more comment about our employees, they all are from the local community, which is why they either walk or ride their bike.
Great.
That's even better, yeah.
So perhaps make a motion, and maybe Irving could read back specifically what he has down for the conditions.
So make a motion to have a set of 12 employees working at one time.
No, just 12 total, not working at one time.
Okay, 12 total, and also have 2 vans.
If I may, on the number of employees, we have, it would be specific to this location because we have 6 employees in our San Francisco store.
Yeah, it would just be specific,
Right, okay.
yeah.
I thought we were talking about a maximum of 12 employees working at that location
Right.
at any one time.
Right.
I thought it was at all.
No.
No, because he has part-time employees, he may have
Yeah.
several, but it doesn't impact
Oh,
the
but
area
at that
because they
location.
could be coming.
Oh, right. No, I mean at that location, but not that they're going to be there all at once, because he said if they were there all at once, it wouldn't work.
Right,
Well, to me,
right.
what would trigger, not meeting the conditions would be if we go beyond 12 employees at the facility at one time. I think that's,
Yeah.
I think 9, it's okay. I think I think we should give a little
Buffer.
buffer zone to 12. I think I'm okay with that personally, so, yeah. Okay.
Okay, hours of operation,
Hours of operations is from 6 all the way to 7.
good.
Correct.
Yeah, but you mentioned that someone's going to be there until maybe 10, 11?
No.
No, he
In
was
the
talking about
morning.
the daytime.
Oh,
No,
daytime.
No, they
AM,
arrive
AM.
at 10 or 11 in the morning.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I will motion that we support the use permit at 3501 Edison for the, let's see, what do we call this? Landmark Laundry Services, with the conditions that maximum 12 employees, the operating hours from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., and administrative review at 6 months and 12 months,
And the van, do we want to do cap on vans?
and a maximum of 2 vans. So,
Yeah.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 hi.
All right, so that's our recommendation, Angela. Thank you. Next on our agenda, we have a discussion of an applicant who is requesting a non-conforming use permit for 341 Berkshire Avenue.
Berkshire?
Berkshire. So we have the same person, Angela, to tell us
back.
more about that.
Okay, so as you mentioned, this is a non-conforming use permit to construct a storage warehouse, which will house finished cabinetry and millwood products. This needs a non-conforming use permit for a few reasons. The first being that the use would be more along an industrial use, and this property is actually zoned for multiple family residential. This also needs a use permit because the parcel is non-conforming in size, as it's less than the 5,000 square foot minimum set for the district. The use permit is also required as the proposed building is non-conforming in the setbacks and lot coverage as well.
Sorry, the what building?
The proposed building. So the property is currently vacant. It was previously developed with a similar use that burned in June 2010 and was subsequently demolished. The use could have been reestablished without a use permit had it come back around within 18 months of that time, but that did not occur. So the use permit process is required. As I mentioned, the property is zoned multiple family residential, and it has commercially zoned property to the east and across Berkshire Avenue to the south. The property immediately adjacent is actually the Hetch Hetchy right-of-way, which abuts the property at the north and east. There are residentially zoned properties to the west and then further up Huntington Avenue on the other side of the Hetch Hetchy. The applicant submitted this application in November of last year to reconstruct and establish the cabinet making business. After some feedback, we recommended that they reconsider, and then the application was amended to just do storage and not do any actual construction of the or not actually do any cabinet making at this location. It would just be the storage of the finished product. However, there were no changes to the proposed building, so as proposed, it would have non-conforming right side yard setbacks, left side yard setback, and front and rear yard setbacks, essentially. While the maximum lot coverage for the district is 50%, that would be a building about 1,725 square feet. The proposed building will exceed this and by approximately 1,017 square feet, resulting in total lot coverage of 80%. The applicant has indicated that normal business hours would be 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, that there wouldn't actually be anyone permanently located at this location. It would only be drop off and pick up, and the types of vehicles still similar to what was originally proposed, so trucks and flatbeds twice a day. So that, and 2 round trips, I'm sorry. And that would be to just deliver the materials and completed products. I'm not sure if you have, we went over this a while ago, but.
In the previous business, you said it had burned?
It did burn, yes. And there's actually, I did receive late some public comment after this was sent to you. So there is a packet at the front if anyone's interested, and also that I provided to you that someone from the public did actually provide the fire report if you're so interested.
Yes, I received an email addressed to the council, and that contained a petition from neighbors. They're saying they have concerns and disapproval.
Right. And that's also included in that packet.
Which is, I don't know if you all have that.
Yeah, there's
The complaint was about paint fumes coming from the previous use and dust and paint fumes. So they're saying they're not in favor, but you're saying that the applicant has altered the application and that it is no longer going to be this. But is
That's
there
what was
anyone
indicated
here
to me.
from the applicant, representing the applicant? Perhaps, thank you. Do you have something to say?
Well, I'm Mary Dunlap. I'm Mr. LaPelle's agent for this building. Good evening. And, you know, back when it burned because the neighborhood children shot Roman candles off and burned it down. And it has been always, business has changed a bit. Hello? Anyway, business has changed quite a lot in as much as Mr. LaPelle has a new place where he manufactures cabinets. He does commercial cabinets. These are high-end, gorgeous things. And what he uses is for storage is so as to get them out of where everybody's working. And yes, the building burnt and it was insured, but the contents weren't. So there were $200,000 worth of moldings on drying, waiting to go the next day. So it's a very important piece. It's like all storage you can't bring and just use it in the same building that you're manufacturing. No intent of doing anything anyplace else, and he's owned that almost 20 years, and it was what it was used for. And I don't know about, I've not seen that report about dust or such, but there wasn't that much manufacturing ever going on there because he uses all the very latest machines, and they weren't there.
So you're saying, though, that he currently has changed the plan and intends to do no manufacturing at this site?
Location.
In this location.
Right.
But there was some going on before.
Apparently, that's
Yeah.
if that's what and you know, that's a real sweet neighborhood. It really is. And Mr. LaPelle, the old building had been added onto a couple of times with permit. It's in the records. But in the back, I mean, he really likes the neighborhood. There is the commercial across the street on one side and the commercial on the other and the Hetchy. But on the front, there's nothing but, I shouldn't say nothing but there are apartments and there's just like 3 two-car garages. I mean, it's very blank and there's no trees. And when we've done stuff before, that's not how he likes the buildings. That's the reason there's trees, even though the city and such, or the county requires, you know, landscaping and such. It's pretty. Across the street is very blank. And we did put it around the front of, even though there is a front door on Berkshire, but around on Huntington is where the actual street is that the garage doors, to keep them off of the main street and pull any trucks inside and to work it. Before he had a little piece of land out there and he likes the neighborhood and he put in because the ladies when their babies would come along in the middle of the day going down and shopping on Middlefield. And so he made out a big sitting area and picnic benches and such, and they were used all the time. So it's not that he's not a member of the community, and it's not like we're really changing anything. And the reason it's actually setback to setback was that's what you can do with commercial. If it would be really difficult for him to use that if it was, we could make it smaller, but if it got down to the 1,000-something square feet, that's not big enough, you know, it's just.
I thought you had said that was zoned residential.
It is.
It is. It is zoned, and it was, I guess, all the time, hasn't it? It's not a new zoning.
Yeah, it's not a new zoning.
No.
It's not a new zoning. The properties, property backs up to Middlefield. So those properties and then across the street on Berkshire are zoned neighborhood commercial, which this would even be a different use even from that.
It's an island. It sits here like a little island of whatever.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from people who, in the audience or who live in the area? Yeah, just a second. Go ahead.
I think this would be a,
Can
Is it
someone
working?
help bring that down a little? Oh, good idea.
I think this would be a totally inappropriate use of that property. It's zoned for residential. The whole point of the North Fair Oaks plan is to make the area nicer and to make it more pleasant for residents. I've driven around there, and there's no parking. And to have flatbed trucks twice a day coming there, it's absolutely ridiculous. You couldn't park a Vespa there, much less a flatbed truck. I think that a use permit for a commercial building, when it burns down or is destroyed, you don't get a second chance. That's it. There are plenty of little houses in North Fair Oaks that are 700, 800, 900 square feet, and you could have a little house there. You could even have a duplex there. I just think making more industrial space, if he's storing stuff, that's a huge fire hazard for people living nearby. We've had lumber yards go up in flames, and I think that's just asking for trouble. Thank you.
Is someone else would like to comment? Yes.
I'm not a very good public speaker, so I'll be a bit nervous. But anyway, my name is Greg Turndrup, and I've lived on Huntington Avenue for 24 years. It's not always been easy. We try to keep the street one of the better streets in the neighborhood. There are people out sweeping the street and picking up trash constantly. We do our best to keep Huntington Avenue nice and clean. And it's a 2-block street. There aren't that many houses on it. At the end of the street is this proposed non-conforming use. This property is zoned residential. There is no parking for large trucks. It's not industrial, it's residential. I've lived in the neighborhood, like I said, for 24 years. We have a petition from the neighbors who disagree with the non-conforming use. The night of the fire, there was manufacturing going on late at night. The building basically exploded. There were canisters of gas which exploded. It's all in the fire report. I'm not making this up, so you can read it. I've attached the petition and the fire report. Basically, in my opinion, this is a totally inappropriate use of the property. Also, a number of residents before the fire called the Bay Area Air Pollution Control District, myself included, and the Menlo Park Fire Department. Basically, we all knew the building would eventually go up in flames because the fumes were so strong that it was obvious there was a problem. So, and lo and behold, one morning, it basically exploded. So, that's about all I can say. I'm not in favor of the use.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, you live where in relation to the property?
Oh, I'm a couple doors down. I have a duplex. I own a duplex, and I've owned it for 24 years. I live there, and I live right on Huntington Avenue.
And there's another residence next door to it?
Yes. I rent out the other half of the duplex that I live in. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous.
Thank you. Is there someone else who had wanted to speak? Please come up.
My name is Helen Hernandez, and my parents own the property right across the lot. The night of the fire, we were all home. It was very scary. we decline, we do not agree with this. Like the gentleman said, this is a residential area on our block. There is no other business. There are businesses on Middlefield, but none on our street. So I'm here to say that we don't want this permit to be issued.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Hello, my name is Maria Luisa Ortiz, and I own a condominium right across the street where this lot is. It was so scary the night that this happened. It was around 1:30 in the morning. We were waken up by all these explosions. It was so scary. We thought that the flames were going to cut our places. We have families. And the fumes of the paint, it was just horrible. And it was for a long time. It was not like just once in a while. So it was a lot of painting done, and it was not appropriate to do all those things in that area. So I totally opposed to this. It's a residential area, so I just don't agree with this construction.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else?
My name is Dora Hernandez. I'm just the owner of the across the street, the building the burn, and I know I heard stories about it at the building. When we moved there, actually was one man that's running a very small business, but we don't know that he's working in there because he's very quiet, no noise, no smell anything. But when the last, I don't know, they're renting to somebody else. But this kind of business that they have, it was very, very noises and smelling. Just several times, I just called the fire department to come in and investigate what's the smelling around the area, because the painting, it was horrible. When I come home, I don't want to go home because I was so sick and dizzy, vomiting, and I have my husband very sick, and we have to deal with the smelling. And I have one children that she suffer asthma, and she always sick because the smelling. Even when you coming out of your car, you start to smelling around.
Is she
Very
better now?
strong, very strong painting.
Is it better now?
Oh, no, he died already. Not about that. The cancer was another, but he was sick, and we deal with this, other issue outside is really ridiculous. I'm not planning to move in from there, and I have to use in my house when I retire, and I'll be retiring and peaceful.
So can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So now that the business has been gone for a while, how are the fumes? How is the air quality now?
It's very quiet, no smelling, no nothing. It's only the lot there, of course, is, nothing in there. But probably I can agree in the future building something better than painting or anything, storage or something else.
Okay, thank you.
I not agree with that.
Thank you. So I have a question, and I'm just curious about this because I understood you were saying that in the past, they were just mostly storing furniture, not doing much work on it, and yet the fumes were, it sounds like, pretty heavy just from the storage of the furniture, is what you're saying? I have no idea. Okay. Because I know a lot of new furniture that's been freshly finished does do a lot of off-gassing for quite a bit, so I'm wondering if that's part of the reason they were storing it there was to get the fumes out, and that maybe just the storage itself is the source. Yeah, it's very.
But I would say that the new building is parking off the street, and it's a different kind of a building, and I don't know what the policing was. I've never seen the fire report.
You have not
But-
seen the fire report. Okay.
But didn't you mention, excuse me,
Go ahead.
can you get close to the microphone?
Microphone, thank you.
Didn't you mention at the beginning that it was some children that threw something?
Candles is what they said.
Who
It-
said
it-
that? I
is-
thought you said the fire report said that.
Oh, I don't know what the fire report says.
Okay.
Okay. So that,
What is it?
I can tell you what the fire report said.
Great,
The fire,
go ahead.
the fire report said that it had a hard time pinpointing the cause, but it did say that that it started on the Huntington Avenue side where spray painting was occurring.
I'm
And
sorry, spray painting
spray
in the
painting
business?
the cabinets, yes.
At the business?
At the
Not
business.
somebody coming and...
No, no, no,
Okay.
no.
just
At the
checking.
business. So it said that, what it said is if spray painting had occurred outside of the spray booth, that it would cause this to explode. And based on the amount of fumes that we all smelled, I think that's accurate. So it said the electrical outlets were not rated for spraying outside of the spray booth. There was lots of manufacturing going on.
Okay, so you're not saying that it was just storage and that's what caused all
It
those
was
fumes?
not just
Okay.
storage.
You believe
Clearly,
it
it
was
was
not?
not
Okay.
just storage.
Thank you.
yeah.
All right.
Well, I'll-
Just a second.
Just
A second.
Yeah.
You had a comment?
No.
Oh, I thought you were about to say
I
something.
think she was going to add something.
Go ahead.
As far as I'm concerned, I'm out of here. This is ridiculous. I would, if I was any one of these people
Living
on
there?
that street, as I said earlier, it is a sweet street. I've gone down, I've knocked on everybody's door to ask them before nobody would talk to me. I look like somebody from somewhere else. And, but there's no reason for this.
I'm sorry, are you saying that what they're saying
No,
is
I'm saying what
ridiculous?
they're saying is correct.
Oh,
And I won't stand here and try to get you to go for a building if that's what they have, what it was.
okay, got it.
Even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not nervous anymore.
No, I'm not, I'm not nervous. If I get motivated, I'm less nervous. I think the Menlo Park Fire Department, as well as the Bay Area Air Pollution Control District, has our complaints on file as well. We complained lots from the fumes, so if the lady doesn't know what was in the report, I almost have it memorized.
Yep.
So,
Okay, thank you.
That's fine, thank you. I think we should
Is that, you did it
discuss.
put
the-
back?
Berkshire? Do you live close by the?
No, I do not.
I'll comment that, it would be one thing if the building was still there, but since it burnt to the ground, I don't see any motivation really to continue that use. It sounds like, we have a lot of areas in North Fair Oaks that were not planned out the way that we do planning now, and a lot of inappropriate uses and industrial mixed with residential that, 50 years ago wasn't as much of a problem. It was more accepted. But nowadays, with zoning, we try to place those things that are appropriate so that, if there are fumes from outgassing furniture or spray booths or whatever, that it's in an appropriate area with other, industrial and that type of businesses. So, I don't feel motivated to support the use permit.
I'm also concerned about, I know we've had a lot of issues with parking and trucks, and in this residential area in particular, we've looked for ways to minimize those problems. And as you say, it's kind of, we're at a place where we get an opportunity to start over, as it were, and the North Fair Oaks plan has spelled out specifically how much we are in need of housing and looking for places to have parks and housing, not that I know of looking for any more manufacturing sites as a need for the community. So I too would say that it's not really something that I see a motivation for continuing a non-conforming use at this point.
Angela, I have a question. With the application, did they submit plans already? And I'm more interested on the electrical service that they may be requesting.
The level of plans that we require for a planning application normally don't include the electrical. So there are plans, however, not to that level of finishedness. So we don't have structurals or anything like that at this point.
Okay. All right. Because, my concern is that if we were going to grant this thing, that obviously we have raised concerns about the particular use that it had before. And at this point, you're trying to sell us the idea that it will be only storage. But if plans are submitted where the electrical capacity can be such that later on could be changed, and the problem that we have around here is that we don't have someone to go check to make sure that everybody's doing what they said they were supposed to be doing. So I have big concerns about that. But again, that's why I was asking about, where I was going with the electrical part of that. But I also have the concerns listening to what the residents said.
Oh, that's outrageous. I mean, you can't do that.
And let me tell you, I personally know about this thing because I have been in the neighborhood, and I remember particularly how this business used to run. It used to have two roll-up doors on either side, and you could see the manufacturing that was going on there with their machines. And when they were manufacturing, that both doors would be open, so you would see from either side, the dust that was coming out. And I would think that probably, especially at night, they would do spray painting without a spray booth. And I'm sure that's exactly what happened. And
I don't know.
I have pictures of,
I don't know, but I'll
because
find out.
I go around taking pictures, and everybody knows that that's what I do. Back in the day, because I had concerns about that operation, and eventually it went up in flames. So I have huge concerns that if we were to grant that again, and now the setbacks that they're suggesting, making it much bigger and going all the way to the property line, especially in the back. I'm pretty sure that actually the fire department had a huge problem, would have a big problem to get in there if there was another fire, because then there'd be no fire entrances. They would have to jump over to the Hetchy side to put out the fire if there was another fire there. If you're to grant, those setbacks as they're proposed, so I'm totally against it.
Only totally against it.
I have, my concern also are the setbacks. It seems that the building space is going to be more than doubled. So that's a concern of mine. For emergency purposes, and the dispatch of emergency vehicles and personnel and, access, again, it's a concern of mine. But also, we're advocating safe streets, cooperation amongst neighbors to build a more safer, friendly, neighborly atmosphere. I feel that this business is not appropriate for that space. I think there are other spaces in the area which they can go and look at. So as of right now, I do not support this.
I believe that this owner actually owns property in the industrial part. At some point, it was mentioned that.
Yes.
So I think, if he owns more property on an industrial area, I think that would be a good place to start looking, and come to us to, for something like that.
Residential property prices are at a high, so
Yep.
he's not going to. In any case, it sounds like we have several opinions on the council.
No, I think you have one.
Several people expressing an opinion or related opinions, so I'm wondering if anyone has a motion as to what our recommendation to planning ought to be on this matter.
Yeah, I'll recommend, I'll make a motion that we do not support this the granting of this permit at this time based on what they are, the use that they want to give to this property. That's my motion.
I'll second the motion.
Is there any discussion?
I
Okay.
think we had
It's
discussion.
just, we already discussed it, I'm just asking. So, all in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
So the council is.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, and thank you all for your time. The council is recommending to planning that this use permit not be, this non-conforming use permit on Berkshire at 341 Berkshire not be granted based on all of the reasons and discussions that were held here tonight. Thank you. So we have another item, and that is not on the agenda, but we talked at the beginning of this meeting about setting up a special meeting for the council to discuss and consider the issues related to another increase in waste costs to North Fair Oaks. So I think what we will now do is have a short discussion on what might be a good date for that. Anyone have a recommendation?
Probably the Thursday before, right?
So we're talking about meeting before.
What's the date when
It was,
it will go before the Board of
is it the
Supervisors? I'm
4th?
sorry.
I have it here somewhere.
It's going to go on September 26th.
Oh, September, that's right, that was
Yeah, so the day of the council meeting.
That's right. So we would need to meet before September 26th. So we could conceivably do that at our study session meeting. We would be meeting that night anyway. We could call that as a special meeting.
Of course, there's been like proposals by different departments, so yeah, like it could be on the agenda, so whoever the council decides.
All right, would we like to do that?
Yes.
All right, so I
think that would be.
all right. I guess we don't need to move, we'll just say we're going to do it,
Yeah.
right? So we'll go ahead, we're in agreement on that?
Yep.
Correct.
I won't be present, I'll be out of town, but we'll take that up on the agenda for that night as a special session. So with that, I think we are ready to adjourn the meeting. Does anyone object to that? Does anyone have any?
I will motion
Huh?
that we
Did they
adjourn the
mention
meeting.
September 15th?
Second?
What was the date? Where?
The 19th, the study session, September
19th?
The
19th.
third Thursday.
Third Thursday, September 19th, for a special meeting
September 19th.
to coincide with our study session.
Again, I'll
Oh,
motion that
okay.
we adjourn the meeting.
I'll
Second?
second.
All in favor? Yes.
Aye.
Okay, we are now adjourned at 8:40 PM. Thank you.